Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. I am Kevin Lieber, certified TCU He-Man fan, and with me, as always, is Matthew Tabor.
Yeah, I just checked before we hit the button. I take a swig of smart water, which I'm done with. I'm done with smart water. I got it really cheaply a long time ago. I bought a bunch of cases. That's great, but it's like, let's take a water bottle and then make it top heavy. Let's make it as tippable as possible for a water bottle, and then call it smart to balance that out. I've spilled water like 3 times in my life on my nightstand. All 3 times it was a long, thin, smart water bottle. So I will be happy to see the last of these. But I took the swig and spilled it right on my shirt. It's the stain is gone, isn't it? Like it dried fast.
It tried. Yeah, you're fine.
But that happened, and I was like, you know what? Back in the audio days, none the wiser, audience, none the wiser. But
So,
now I
yeah,
need to be careful.
you just be covered in gravy stains, like blobs of nacho cheese.
Only the Discord people watching it live on there saw some of the aesthetic horrors that we put in front of their faces.
The gravy stains and the cheese. Yeah. So, in speaking of aesthetics, I saw the Masters of the Universe this weekend. I don't know, recently, a few days ago. I don't remember. I don't know what time is, but sometime in the recent future, since we last no recent past, since we last recorded, I saw the He-Man movie.
Can I ask you a quick question about this?
Yeah.
Is a
Yes.
terminology thing with real fans of it? And I had the toys. I watched the cartoon because it was prime for us. We were like 4 or 5. It was perfect. Um, but I didn't carry that fandom into adulthood. But is there a terminology thing? Like if you say He Man, are people like, it's actually Masters of the Universe? Like I'm thinking back to Lego versus Legos. If you say Legos, the Lego people will go bonkers. Is there
Yeah.
a similar thing on He Man?
Not that I know of. I mean, I always just called it He-Man.
Yeah.
Always. And I always found calling it Masters of the Universe so much clunkier, to the point where I forgot that this new He-Man movie was even called Masters of the Universe. It's just He-Man in my brain always.
Yeah.
I don't, Masters of the Universe is so formal. It's like, really, like Masters of the Universe was my father. Please call me He-Man. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Well, I really did want to ask because I see people use both, and I was like, I wonder if there's like the real fandom term, and then the everybody else who had it ingrained in their 4-year-old brain, like us.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know personally anybody who is like that neck deep in the fandom in order, so I'm the wrong person to ask that question to. I'm probably
Yeah.
just tangentially interested in He-Man, so I call it He-Man. I don't know. I call it He-Man. I like He-Man. I like Skeletor.
Yeah.
I like all of the creatures and the good guys and the bad guys.
Orko.
Orko is awesome.
Yeah.
The whole fantasy setup is like the perfect setting for me. That's what I'm interested in. And so uh I have the most wishy-washy response to this new film, which is like some of it I really liked a lot and I thought was amazing and great. And then other parts of it I was so confused with, and that I really wanted to talk about it on the podcast, even though you haven't seen the movie. I just kind of need to rant a little bit about how confusing the writing was of this movie, and the tone of this movie is unlike anything I think I can compare it to. It is weird.
It's intriguing to hear about this, and to be honest, with a movie like a He-Man type movie, I don't really need to see it to understand everything that you're saying. We were talking earlier about like the Marvel movies. I didn't see every single one. I saw almost all of them. Especially at one point I had COVID, and was like, I'm just gonna chain them this week on Disney because who cares? And there's that, like, the chronological order. in the story, and so I looked that up to see the precise order. You know, I haven't watched every single one, uh, but I feel like I could have a capable and competent discussion about a Marvel movie I haven't seen. And I just have to trust that what you're saying is real, and you're not describing, you're not playing a big prank on me,
Oh,
where you're like, well, you know, then He Man went into the orphanage and slaughtered all the children. I'm like, ooh,
yeah, no,
wow,
I was
that's
thinking this
heavy.
morning about talking about this in regards to spoilers, and I landed on the fact that I don't think that there's anything to spoil. Quite literally, like I feel like it's totally fine to mention things that happen in the movie, and no one's going to be like, ah, like now I don't need to see it, or like now you've ruined this big reveal. Or it's like there's nothing to reveal. There's like nothing to spoil. So um, let me start with the good, which is that the visuals are to me the visuals were amazing. Like Skeletor looks awesome, like really really freaking cool, like as
What I saw on
cool I
Twitter
think as I
looked
could
cool.
imagine him looking. Like this is
Yeah.
sweet, it's great. And you know as shallow perhaps as it is, not just seems, but probably is, the the lion's share of my enjoyment of watching He-Man was just seeing He-Man and Skeletor and Beastman and Mossman and all of these, little action figures sort of come to life. Like that was enough for me to go see the movie, and it was also enough for me to leave the movie and be like, that was worth seeing in a theater. Like that was cool to see those action figures come to life on a big screen. It was neat. It
So
was
that's the
just
first checkpoint is before you go into the details, are you happy that you bothered to go see it? Like, do you regret having spent the money and time going to see it?
no, 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 no. That
Okay,
was enough. Like that
that's
was
good.
enough for me. Yeah, just to see He-Man fighting Skeletor on a big screen. That was worth the $13 or whatever the ticket cost. The casting, I would say, for the most part, was really good. Some of it was weird, but it was more good than weird.
Okay.
Like He-Man was great. I thought Tila was great. Uh, like I said, Skeletor looked really good. So all of those elements were good. The settings were good, like the visuals. All of it was really pretty to look at, and that made it worthwhile for me as someone who just likes He-Man enough to be amused by that part of it, is just seeing He-Man. Without that, then a lot of questions, and that's what I want to start doing is there are a lot of questions that get raised, I think, by me at least, as to who would like this movie without just uh, already loving He-Man to the
Hmm.
point where seeing He-Man stuff on screen is enough for it to be entertaining to you or worthwhile to you. It gets
Yeah, that's
really weird after that to me.
I kind of hadn't thought about that because we need to back up, 38, 39 years. Did you see the Dolph Lundgren one in the theater?
I don't recall if I saw it in the theater. I don't think so, but I definitely saw it 2 dozen times probably, I think we had it on VHS. I watched it a
Okay.
lot, and it's a really bad movie.
Yeah, but when it was 1987, you probably had it on VHS in 88. So, when you're 5, bad movies aren't bad. I'm
Well,
sure
like
it
I said,
was
I watched it many, many, many times, but I also thought it was bad at the time, but still kept watching it because I was 5.
right, right. Yeah,
But
so okay. So at that time though, when you saw that movie, it was in the whole context of you watched the cartoon, you had the toys. You were already a fan and then there's a movie of this thing as opposed to being 10 years old, 8 years old now and pretty much being introduced to He-Man for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been He-Man stuff in the meanwhile. I don't know if any of it was any popular. There was that
Yeah,
really weird Kevin Smith cartoon where it wasn't about He-Man, it was actually about Tila.
they had
Uh,
the reboot cartoon that did not did not go well. A lot of
no.
people were excited for it. They were like, "Oh, this is good nostalgia," and they wanted to see it. And they're like, "This blows." And I never heard anything after the 6 months of criticism that followed it. Then it wasn't even worth you know dumping on after that.
Yeah, yeah, that was, short-lived. But the original canon film was the thing that was really that movie was super low budget. I think they had, like, $17 to make that movie, and, probably 15 of it was just to feed Dolph Lundgren, to the point where it's not in Eternia, it's in, like, a back lot in Los Angeles, and
Right.
they're, like, walking around desolate, like, LA streets, and do they go to the mall at some point, or like a high school dance, or like it makes no sense. It's like, well, we can't build like sets for Eternia, so we'll just, I don't know, have this like bop it that will teleport all of the Eternia people into like
Your real life.
1987 Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's actually not dissimilar to Encino Man. When you compare the idea, where it's like, ooh, let's do a crazy fish out of water story that just so happens to be filmed 5 miles away to make it a little cheaper and easier.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
so that's why that movie stunk, is because it was just really cheap, and yeah, you weren't in Eternia. You didn't have any of the cool He-Man things. It was just kind of like, what if He-Man and, Skeletor were at your high school? Like, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. I can only rank that film based on what would pop up all the time and what I would be happy to watch, and what I wouldn't be happy to watch. And two movies that I always watched every time I saw them. One is Beastmaster 2, which was
Okay.
on 10,000 times on HBO for years. Now, if Boss Threads is around, I know that he was a Beastmaster 2 fan as well. We had to be. It was the only thing on. And another is Krull. You know
I just
Krull with the
I
glaive?
just we just watched Crawl like 3 days ago for the first time since
Krull,
I was a kid. Yeah.
it's weirdly good.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's
It's
cheesy,
good.
but it holds up. It's totally watchable.
And that was on
I
constantly
wish there
back in
was
the
more
day.
glaive. I remembered, like, the glaive being a big deal, and then, on this rewatch, I was like, the
Only a few
glaive he
times.
doesn't use until the really, really end of the
The
movie. He
boss fight,
throws it,
yeah.
like, twice.
Yeah, it just spins, and that's the
Yeah,
glaive.
yeah.
But those two movies, which they were not fantastic films at all. I still watched them every time they were on. When the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe came on, I never watched it, not once. I mean, I
Mm.
saw the movie at some point, but in all the reshowings, it was like, no, I'll do the Andy Griffith Show reruns again instead of watching this.
That's an indictment.
Uh, yeah, it feels that way when I rank things in my memory. But hey, there's some good meme material out of it now. Some of the Charles Kahn types do a very good job with sending up the old Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, yeah, it is good meme material. There were memes, like He-Man memes that they worked into this new movie, which I was, like, lukewarm on. I'm sure other people thought that was fun. I was like, whatever. But there are, like, some headline things here that I need to get to about, like, to support my thesis here about why this is, such a strange movie.
And take a look at the chat as you progress on this, because we've got somebody, Alex Maxfield, who's seen the film and has some feedback.
uh, and,
So,
and and enjoyed it. Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
enjoyable. Yeah, so it has like an 86%, I think, audience review
really,
on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, this is not like a clunker of a movie. It is fun. There's a lot of really fun set pieces. Um, like I said, the visual effects and all of that, just it's great eye candy. Um, so I unless you have like a really hardcore stance on like what He-Man should be and what a He-Man movie should be, I think there are those people who hate this movie. Those people for sure exist. I think the majority of people will land somewhere more in the middle where they're either like me and they're like, some of it was cool, some of it was not great. Or other people are just like, you know what? I had a good time. And the I had a good time thing is part of the Martin Scorsese quote that I want to get into
Hmm.
because I think that this movie exemplifies his quote about Marvel movies not being cinema and instead being more akin to theme parks. But I want to get to that later because I first want to detail some of the things I found really weird about this movie. Here's like the headline number one. As soon as I got out of the theater, like the first thing I said is that the He-Man movie is embarrassed of He-Man. It
That's
is
interesting.
it is like this is not an opinion. Like it is objectively, like it is on the screen, it is in the dialogue, it is in the script that it finds the whole concept of He-Man to be silly or goofy, kind of like juvenile, and it makes fun of itself in a way that I found strange. Like I thought it it does like two conflicting things. Whereas on one hand, first of all, I would categorize it as a comedy, not as
Okay.
like an action movie, not certainly not as a drama. It literally has the joke pacing of a sitcom. Almost everything that happens in the movie is buttoned by a joke, is undercut by some humor the whole way through. There might be like two parts that are seriously dramatic that they don't then undercut with a joke, but 99.9% of the movie, it is like always in service to of the next joke. Everything, which is uh, part of what I'm saying of how it is treating itself as a joke is that it's kind of a He-Man spoof at the same time as being a serious He-Man movie. It does both things, which is really strange. So let me tell you why it's embarrassed of itself. Okay, I have a very this is sounds vague and generalized. I'll give you a specific example of what I mean by that. Okay, so the whole point of the He-Man characters is that you collect as action figures is there all these wacky, bizarre, imaginative little good guys and bad guys. You have
Mhm.
Ram Man, who literally like
Fisto.
folds up into a little thing and then springs forward and like rams you with his head. Fisto, a guy with just a giant fist that he punches stuff with. In
Those are cool. Those are
Well,
cool.
yeah,
Like
I
when you're a
agree.
kid, they're
Yeah,
just fun.
I agree.
Like
Uh,
GI Joes, I was never into GI Joes, despite like I
Me either.
always from the earliest age was into military stuff, war stuff, all of that. I should have been primed to love GI Joe, and I like the cartoon a lot. I love the cartoon, but the action figures, uh, uh they were okay, but like they weren't interesting enough, right? There was no guy with a giant fist that just mashed people. You know, there was no floating pseudo wizard. Like, those make for better toys, in my opinion.
They were way better, more fun to play with. Yeah, more unique amongst themselves. So that is really like the universe of He-Man is that you have Triclops and you have Mechanic and you have all of these strange. They have gimmicks. You have these
Mhm.
gimmicky good guys and bad guys. Merman and he's half man, half mermaid man, whatever. Uh, they make fun of those names in the movie. Like those names are literally the butt of a joke that lasts the entire movie. So the what happens is, so here's my first spoiler warning for listeners who don't want this spoiled. Uh, Scrub ahead, I guess. What happens is, in the very beginning, Skeletor attacks. They send Prince Adam through a portal to reality and out of Eternia to Earth. And so he grows up on Earth. So from the age of, I don't know, let's say 5 until he's 20 years old. I'm pretty sure he's been on he is on Earth for 15 years. Pretty sure. So we'll just say 5 until he's 20. While he's on Earth, he is obsessing over like the warriors of his kingdom. And he's obsessing over Eternia to the point where his bedroom is like littered in childish drawings of all of the people that he grew up with. And he gives them silly names like Fisto and Ram Man. Those are not their real names in this movie. They never say what their real names are. Their real names could be like Phil and Gary, I guess, for all we know. They never mention that they have real names and they're not Ram Man and they're not Fisto and they're not Mechanic. They're instead like Stu and Joseph and Stephen, I guess. But Prince Adam named them in his like, sort of silly sophomoric juvenile mind of like these like childish drawings and like sticking them up on his bedroom wall like, oh, when I was 5, I really loved this guy and I call him Ram Man, and this guy I call Mechanic because his neck is long and I'm 5 years old and this is how I named them. Okay? This is a running gag in the movie where like the people of Eternia are embarrassed. They're like, "You call me what do you call him? You call him Ram Man?" Like
This
that's
dialogue happens?
yes. This is like a running joke throughout the whole movie is them like making fun of He-Man, of Prince Adam, for nicknaming the characters their names.
But you never know what their actual name is.
No.
This is a weird device. That's really odd.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
This is
just
my
an odd
point.
thing.
Like,
And
what?
I can see one very funny scene where like one guy doesn't like his name. And it's like, this device happens in a lot of films where it's really funny where like like even in a western like some guy has to ride like the tiny pony instead of like the big horses everybody else is, and he's like I get I get Tigger the pony like and it's 30 seconds that's levity and whatever, it's awesome. But this is a more substantial thing what you're
This is
describing.
Are you ready for how substantial it is? Like you are not prepared for how substantial this element of this film becomes, okay? Because again, major spoiler alert. Okay? Here we go. Here's a spoiler. The very end of the movie, they finally ask Prince Adam if he gave himself one of these stupid nicknames. And he like embarrassingly and bashfully admits yes, and it was He-Man. He nicknamed himself He-Man, and they all are like, He-Man? Basically, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire you call yourself He-Man? And this
And the
is like
film
the
ends this
end
way.
of the movie. This is
What
like
a
the big
terrible,
joke.
terrible way to end that film.
The the big joke is the name He-Man. Is them taking like a colossal dump on the name He-Man. That's basically how the movie ends. And I was like, what are we doing? Wait, what are we doing? What is this? What is this movie? Like, why does this exist? Yes.
I so there this is I can't tell if it's parallel or tangential. Hopefully you get where my mind is on this. I like little nods to goofy stuff on remakes. There are elements to old things that just are more ridiculous now or don't match in a way, and like pointing that out can be very funny in a quip. This has happened with a lot of the older classic stuff. Okay, and I've like I do a lot of driving. Okay, I do a lot of driving, and several times I've thought about what you would do if you remade the Honeymooners, which for the people in the chat and listening who aren't 3,000 years old, this was a black and white sitcom, two married couples basically in the 50s, and Ralph Cramden was the main guy and his wife Alice. And one of the running like punchline kind of things, Alice would do or say something that he would get mad at, and he would threaten to punch her, and you know, to the moon, you know, it was this like winding thing. And if you, it's been 70 years, okay, it's not as funny to threaten to punch your wife in the face over a mild annoyance. It doesn't play as well with the focus groups, you know. But it was really funny in the context of that show because it's so ridiculous. And I thought, well, if you remade the Honeymooners now, you've got to, you can't just ignore the to the moon punch threats. It was a central like tagline thing, right? But what do you do? How do you do it? How do you acknowledge it in a way that's still really entertaining now and oddly faithful to the original without like glorifying domestic violence? And I feel like what you just described is that same sort of challenge where we are actually in the golden age of naming goofy things. Pokemon did this. There's an expectation that names are going to be either awesome or charmingly on the nose, which also makes them awesome. And then you have this thing called He-Man, which is objectively a terrible a terrible name. It's like the original we tried to name something attempt, you know? Okay, I can see you acknowledging the goofiness of that. How do you do it? I don't know. I don't know how to do it, but I know that what you just described is not it.
I found it really really strange, and like I said, it was like one of the like it's like the main example I have of it being embarrassed of itself. Like they're clearly embarrassed of He-Man being this stupid thing. And it's like, okay, but this is a He-Man movie. So like why make it then if it's so stupid? That's how I felt. I was like why do I care about what's happening if you think this is all stupid? And why did you like part of me it made me feel, and I have no idea who the writers of this movie are. I have no idea what their level of interest is in He-Man.
I'm Googling.
But watching it, I felt like, did somebody like throw this IP on their desk and they begrudgingly were like, I guess I need a job, even though this thing is idiotic. I'll have to write this He-Man movie. That's how it came across to me, where it seemed like punishment for somebody to write this movie as opposed to take like actually liking it and taking it somewhat seriously, because you can say anything, especially in the fantasy genre, is silly and stupid and like moronic, and like you could do a Lord of the Rings where you think Lord of the Rings is dumb. And you think like, oh, there's a wizard and his name is Gandalf, and there are these
Oh,
like
sure.
tiny people, and they have to carry a ring really far. This is the dumbest thing I ever heard of, right? Like
Hmm.
that could be a perspective. just as, oh, the guy's name is He-Man and he has a sword and it's called this sword of power and it gives him power. Like you could take that snarky, but like Lord of the Rings is taken seriously.
Mhm.
Like Peter Jackson loved Lord of the Rings. He took the source material seriously. He adapted it the best way that he possibly could. Everybody who worked on it seemed to really be passionate about doing their best, where there was the costumes or whatever, all of it, the score, all of it. And everyone loves it. Okay. Basically, it's a classic. It still holds up. People are still talking about how great the Lord of the Rings trilogy is. Even though you could be like, this is like goofy kid stuff. Um, and that's how I thought, you know, I feel weird saying like you should have treated He-Man more seriously, but I think if you treated He-Man more seriously, it wouldn't have been a gigantic box office bomb. Like it's a huge bomb. They're losing hundreds of millions of dollars on this movie. So, like, regardless of the people who still like it, and like I'm one of them, I still liked it. It was fun.
I
It's
saw
a
200 million, and that's a lot of money to make back.
Oh, that's just the production budget. Then you got to
Yeah.
double that for the marketing. So they got to hit at least 400 million. I think they just crossed 100 million and it's pretty much going to be out of theaters, I think, in another couple of weeks. So like
Pakistan's going to love it.
they're losing their shirts on this.
Amazon MGM did it, right? So at least it will have a life on Prime. They must be banking on making a buck that way somehow.
I don't know. I don't know. But I would have like if they rolled the Brinks truck up to my house and say here's the money to write the He-Man movie, I would have taken it. I wouldn't have been like, this is so stupid. Like, his name's Fisto. That sounds like a sexual act. Isn't that really funny? I wouldn't have done any of that. Like, so, like maybe I don't even put Fisto in it because it is too silly. You have 10,000 characters to choose from. You can pick ones that seem like more menacing or like more heroic. You don't have to put the goofy ones in there. Um, Beastman is not goofy. Beastman in the movie looks absolutely awesome. It's just this like giant monster, basically. It looks really scary. But yeah, throughout the whole thing, the tone to me was very much like, I can't believe we have to make this movie.
That's awful when you get that feeling watching it. And we actually, uh, this is one of those. I would love to just fire up the bus and throw specific people under it. But you know some of them, Kevin. That's why I don't want to name names here.
Okay.
I hate these moments because I just want to like flamethrower it and burn it all down. And good taste prevents me from doing that. But everybody watching, listening to this, knows of having had this feeling on YouTube where you see a video that is a brand collaboration and you can tell that the person didn't really want to make this. They didn't want to do this collaboration. They didn't want to make a video about X, Y, or Z, but they had to because they had to pay the bills. You've definitely watched videos from someone you are really familiar with that you like. You know the energy that they have in their normal videos. And you're watching this and you can tell there's this like discomfort and distaste with what they're doing in the video. This was a lot more common way back in the day than it is now for two reasons. One, collaboration stuff, you get some really janky ones back then that are a little less common now. And number two, I think people are better at hiding it and working around it. They are just simply better at making a video they truly want to make, even if it's tainted by this other thing. Anyway, when you watch those videos, you had this uncomfortable sort of feeling when you would know what's going on. And that's what it seemed like you just described, is that you're watching this thing that is feels like it was like written in a hostage scenario. Like they were at gunpoint.
Yeah, there's
And you
that.
felt uncomfortable.
It, yeah, I truly did. I truly like the best way to describe it is I feel like the filmmakers were embarrassed of He-Man, and at that point, I don't know why they're making a He-Man movie. Like, I wish that they thought it was awesome, and that was translated, through the screen. Instead, it was like some of it looks awesome, and like I'm on board with that, and then some of it they're just straight taking the piss. That's the phrase, I
The
guess. That's
piss take.
they're taking the piss out of He-Man. Like, why are we taking the piss out of He-Man? Almost as
Yeah.
if it was like an SNL parody
Hmm.
mixed with the movie. There are a couple of other things that I really wanted to talk about in regards to. I felt as though this movie was such a good example, at least to me, to crystallize the concept of Martin Scorsese's delineation between the idea of something being cinema and something being like a theme park. Um,
Do you have that quote, by the way? I don't remember how long it is. I mean, I know that he went into detail, and so doing a 3 minute quote probably isn't good. Uh, but I also remember like one sentence or two that summed up that whole thing.
He says, I don't think they are, in regards to Marvel movies, he says, I don't think they are cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. So, yeah,
Yeah.
he just says they're not cinema, they're theme parks. And that's what this He Man movie was to me, 100% a theme park. And I would like to give you examples as to why I think that. Okay. First of all, this is one of the things I haven't seen anybody talk about, and maybe it doesn't bother them, and maybe like I am too sensitive to this type of thing. I really don't know, and that's why I'd like your feedback on it. But
Okay.
one of the things that you said to me about Sleep Warrior that really meant so much, actually really means everything to me when it comes to that project, is that you believe the characters. Like, you believe that the
Mm.
characters are real characters, and the things that they do and the things that they say align with who they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that's a huge component to everything is that like anything at all fictional, whether it's a book, it's a movie, it's anything, somebody has to do something that's within the realm of that character. You can believe them doing it. Or occasionally it's really good when somebody does something so wildly out of character. That's the other arc where it's like the bored housewife, homemaker who doesn't do anything ever and hates her life, gets a ring at the doorbell, and then you know sleeps with the guy 5 seconds later, or stabs him, shoots him, like something that's just like, this shouldn't happen. This person shouldn't do this, but those are the exception. Everything else, even the little things, even the little things have to add up. They have to add up. I remember talking to you about cigarettes really early and talking about Sleep Warrior because Meryl's mom chain smokes. And I asked, what does she smoke? And we talked about this on the podcast a long time ago, and everybody, at least, how old do you have to be to understand personalities as they match with cigarettes? Because in the era of nobody smoking, young
Yeah.
people, I
I think
imagine, don't get
that's
this.
no, I think that's lost. Yeah.
Okay, well, the brand loyalty as they match different personalities is a very clear thing in this world. Okay, very few people deviate from smoking the cigarette that a person who doesn't know them could see them for a few minutes, talk to them for a few minutes, and expect them to smoke. Okay, if Kevin Lieber was a smoker and I'm just meeting him right now on this podcast. I am the guest. Kevin's the host. And Kevin pulls out a pack of Newports and lights one up. I would not have seen that coming. The Kevin Liebers of the world don't smoke Newports. Um, if he pulls out American Spirit, I don't think twice.
That was going to be what I was going to say. I was going to say I would be an American Spirit guy,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. But it's these details, right? And so this was not an important part of the scene. The important part is that Meryl's mom is like laying there chain smoking and she's a disaster. What she's smoking doesn't matter. But you put that detail in to further reinforce the expectation of what somebody has for what this woman, what this woman is doing. Um, what the mom in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, the details surrounding her were exceptional with this.
It's a really good movie. Yeah.
That was a really good example of using those details. So anyway, this stuff matters, where all the people, all the characters have to they have to be they have to be real, so that nobody even takes a beat to think, you know, why does Kevin smoke Newports? Unless you then are using that as an opportunity to show something really unique. Be like, well, when Kevin was 7, he started smoking Newports, and like there's some strange thing. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's something that you did well with all the characters. And it's not just little details like that. It's what they do. It's what they say.
Yeah.
It
How they
all has to make sense.
react, their emotions, all of it needs to, yes, it needs to make sense. Okay.
Yeah, when
Now,
Meryl is looking at a girl, which, sorry to spoil, but, page 2 of the book, but like he would be very nervous and, awkward and kind of charmingly incelly.
yeah. Not
He's not a
suave, not
now
debonair.
he's not a like shoot up the mall incel. He is a like crying his pillow incel, right? Um, but if he'd been confident and comfortable talking to this girl, it would have been idiotic. That's not who it is. That's not what you would expect. It would be stupid.
Yeah, it would be wrong and it would break your suspension of disbelief. Like that's really what suspension of disbelief is that you can believe that this thing that's obviously fictional is real. And you're not getting tripped up on details, breaking your suspension of disbelief. Okay, so having said that, and this was the thing earlier, because I know how much those sort of details matter to you.
It's all I
They
watch.
they
It's all
they
I care
matter they
about.
matter to me, but like to you, you take it to a way, way, way different level than even I do.
I was
N-
watching The Patriot last night on Tubi,
yes.
and in the opening, the kids are excited to get Heath Ledger and his brother are excited for the mail to come so they can read the newspaper and like find out what the news is, whatever. And it shows that something is happening in Charlestown. They show the newspaper in a font that never existed before the 20th century. It's not even close. It is the most ridiculously implausible font. They could have done Comic Sans and it would have been like marginally worse. But I'm looking at it and like the way the S's and the F's are, I'm like, you blew it. This is like Times New Roman from MS Office, not a 1776 newspaper. It's horrible.
Yeah, so you get angry over what is it? Anachronistic
Yeah,
fonts. Okay,
yeah.
let me explain something to you. Now here's the time to explain why I brought this whole problem up and why I don't think that this is cinema and should be classified. Whatever cinema is, that could be its own other question. I don't know how to answer. I don't know what cinema is. Scorsese clearly believes he does. Nothing that any of the characters say is in service to them being a real character.
Mm.
All of it is in service to moving the plot, moving the scene, or like making some implausible scenario funny and entertaining. And that's it. That is it 100%. There are like a million moments where my hair was like standing on edge over like, why would he say that? Why would she say that? Like, why would they? No one would ever do that. Like, the whole movie is like that, which is a huge problem. It makes me feel, I guess, neurotic, or like I'm overthinking a He-Man movie. Like, I think these are probably valid criticisms to levy at me for responding that way, but like I can't shut my brain off. It would be
Mhm.
great, that phrase, like just shut your brain off and like watch this thing, it'll be awesome. Like I cannot do that. So instead, my brain is just reacting in real time constantly to the fact that like that doesn't make any sense, or this would never happen this way. And all of the characters are like this, and the whole movie is like this. Let me give you two examples, two glaring examples, okay, of scenes that probably 99% of people just enjoyed and thought were funny, and they're not going to be overly critical of. But I'm annoying. I annoy myself, and now I'm going to annoy you with my
Yeah.
analysis of this stuff. Okay.
This is what I signed up for a long time ago.
That's why this podcast exists. Adam, Prince Adam, He Man, but he's not He Man because that's a stupid name. So she'll just, call him Prince Adam. Prince Adam is on a date on Earth. He's not in
Okay.
Eternia. He's on Earth. He's been on Earth, okay, for I would say three times longer than he was on Eternia. Like, because I think he was like 5 when he went to Earth, and it's been 15 years on Earth.
Formative years as well.
The formative years,
Yeah.
5 through 20, like
Yeah. If you
you're
know
growing up there.
anybody who was born in another country, like moved to the country you know them from at 5, they just act like they're from that country because like 99% of their personality is there. You get so much, hilarity ensues between immigrant parents and native raised, if not native born kids, because you don't hold on to those things. Like you're formed at that age, as opposed to like if he'd been, on Earth from the ages like 50 to 65.
Right.
There's not formative development happening then, right? So yeah.
So it's kind of important, and that was going to be part of, my explanation here, is that he really, really grew up on Earth, 5 through 20, whatever it is. He's an Earthling, really, at this point.
Yeah.
He's on what's presumably a first date.
Okay.
He's at a restaurant, sitting across the table from a girl,
20 years old, give or take.
20 years old, first date, and they're telling each other about themselves. Let's get to know each other. And Prince Adam goes off on this like long tirade about Eternia and Ram Man and Fisto and like the Sword of Power and Skeletor. Like he's dumping all of this stuff on this girl on like a first date to get to know him, for the comedic value of her being like, "You're a crazy kook and I'm out of here." Oh,
Yeah, that's just like mental illness at that point.
yes. Right. That's how it would come across. And the girl's like, "Oh, I need to check my phone actually." And he's like, "It's not ringing." And he's like, no, I need to get this and I need to go." And like, ah, ha, ha, ha. It's so funny. What an awkward moment. And I'm sitting there like, that would just never happen. Like he grew up on Earth. He would know how to, even if he would know how to talk to people on Earth about Earth
Yeah.
stuff. Like, why would he be dumping lore about when he was a 4-year-old on Eternia on a first date? Like, none of this makes sense at all.
No, that isn't plausible.
It's
It isn't
completely
plausible.
implausible.
And I thought of a much better way to state this thing, and to think about it than, talking about it a few minutes ago. By the way, Luna is in the background and it's awesome. Isn't that
Apparently,
great?
she was in a window this whole time, and I had no idea. She just emerged.
hanging out, not looking at the camera, but hanging out.
Yeah.
Um, you you can't have elements that cause somebody reading or watching to trip up and even think about them. You need to make sure there's the absence of thought. So like this is when it occurred to me when you said the like why can't you just turn your brain off thing. No, the responsibility is actually on whoever's doing the thing to make it so you don't have to turn your brain off. It should be cruise control, smooth sailing until there's something that you want them to consider or notice or think about, right? And every time there is, he wouldn't wear that, he wouldn't say that, he wouldn't act that way, he wouldn't gush about Eternia on a first date. Anytime there's something like that, the payoff had better be just massive, massive. And it doesn't sound like it was in that scene. It was just a goofy scene. You know, you can't do that and have it be enjoyable. You're actually making somebody work. You're making them work. And I encounter this in things that I read snippets of where I feel like it's being done on purpose, that I'm being forced to get hung up on details for the purpose of playing with me, like it's supposed to entertain me. It's supposed to make reading something more interesting, uh, or because the author has no clue how to do it smoothly. And it's something that we have spent, you and I together have spent immeasurable time doing, because that is the kiss of death in a YouTube video, is coming up with any reason to interrupt the flow of somebody watching. When I did seminar stuff and like talk to people, there's this about YouTube videos, there's like a really grimy, unceremonious truth with YouTube, which is that it's not competing with other YouTube videos at all. Yes, you're being shown 20 suggestions in the sidebar, related things. You can go to other ones at any time for free. You can quit anything, but it's really competing with, why am I not watching Netflix? Why am I not playing PlayStation? Why am I not gooning on Pornhub? Which is like, if you look at internet traffic data, that's actually a thing people do with their time on the internet. It's a realistic thing you have to factor in. Anytime you have one of those moments, you are forcing somebody to think, what else could I be doing? And it's over. It's over. You can get away with a few of them, but it's generally over. You can get away with it when the only other option is to stand up and walk out of a movie you just paid for. You're willing to tolerate a lot more. But with everything you're writing, YouTube videos you make, anything like that, the cost of quitting is zero, and it's constant. You cannot afford to throw that stuff in. It sucks.
Yeah, that's the major reason people. I remember Orson Scott Card did a whole thing about why people stop reading books, and essentially that's what it boils down to: is you give a person, you kick them out of their suspension of disbelief, and they start thinking, "Man, am I really interested in this? Man, I don't really want to. I don't really care what happens." Then they stop reading.
We
So
should
let me
have
tell
him
you.
on so I can tell him all the reasons I've stopped reading The Seventh Son, like the 5 times I've tried to read it.
Yeah, it's because it's boring. That's why. That's the problem. I read The Seventh Son, and it was okay. I kind of slogged through it, and then I started the second one, and I gave up on that one really quick. Anyway, here's the second example. But please, you could
I
just
hated the first one.
trust me that this is the whole movie. Is that it's all like all of the dialogue, all of the scenarios are to like it's that theme park ride. It's like, we'll just make this as entertaining as possible and not worry about character development or like the scene as a whole and how it plays into things that happen later We're not like setting up something here that'll pay off later. It's like none of that. It's just like constant adrenaline focused on like dumping entertainment into a thing, and the words that come out of characters' mouths and the things they do are only in service to that. They're not in service to the cinema. Here's the other thing that was driving me crazy. And if there's anybody who can correct me on this, please do. Because I would love to just have this be something I'm wrong about in Masters of the Universe lore, but it didn't make any sense to me in the movie. Is that all of these people, they're all sort of together. Yeah, He-Man and Tila and Man of Arms and Ram Man, and they're all together. Ram Man and Fisto and all of these people don't know who Prince Adam is. They don't know who he is at all, which was like making my brain explode because I was like, okay, I'm sorry. They don't know who the like sole heir to the king and queen of Eternia is, of like Castle Grayskull. Like, they don't know who Prince Adam is. They don't know that he like escaped the realm at the age of 5 with the sword of power, which is really important, and then is back now and like brought the sword of power back and is like the hope for defeating Skeletor and like returning Eternia to its prosperous, peaceful glory day. They don't know who he is? How is that possible?
It's impossible. It's impossible completely. I mean, you would have to. I'm trying to think of a parallel. Um, there are some elements of this in Lord of the Rings, where like the Ring of Power is kind of an unknown thing because it's to some people in the beginning, because it's been so long. Life has gone on for so many years. The elves who were around to see it, yes, of course they remember they were there, but it's been 100 generations for everybody else, and it's been forgotten. These things do happen. You made the scurvy video precisely about the cure to a disease that was effectively forgotten. It's just like kind of stopped doing it and then forgot why it mattered or how to prevent it. This does happen, but with small things, right? Like life goes on is a real thing, and I lament every day about different things and people that are lost. Right? I've mentioned this 100 times on the podcast, where it actually is like a driver of my worldview, the angst with this, and I don't know the right words to describe it. This is a real phenomenon, is my point. However, it's not the most significant thing in the world, like the guy who's going to save Eternia is. It's not the main person in the world. It's completely implausible that what you described could ever. If they knew one thing, it would be that.
If they knew one thing, it would be who he
That's
is.
what it would be.
Yeah, yeah. But it makes, I guess, for a much funnier joke if they're all like, "Who's this guy? What was his name again? Alan?" Like it. I guess it
That's
just
not
makes
funny
I,
because
I
it's too implausible to be funny.
That was my reaction. Yeah, like right. Humor has to come from believing a situation to begin with, and if it's totally implausible, then it's not going to land as a funny joke.
You know what could be funny? There are 6 or 7 of them together, and one guy doesn't know.
And they make fun of him for not knowing.
They make fun of him for not knowing.
Right. That would be funny.
That could be very funny and plausible. There's like completely plausible. This happens where um I, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable taking dumps on different nationalities at this point. This has happened to me so many times where I will go to a country and know seminal things about the country's history that somebody there has no idea about. None. This happened in the United Kingdom a lot. A lot. It's always very funny, right? Because you don't know how to handle it either, because part of you wants to be like, how can you not know that? But that's a rude thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And so to what degree do you play along with, the equivalent of like, oh, you're a baseball fan and you've never heard the name Babe Ruth? Uh, like, you don't expect much more than awareness. That's fine. You just have to know who it is. It can be funny. That's what I'm saying. It can be funny if one person doesn't know, but for all of them to just have it not be on their radar at all is stupid.
Yeah,
Odd thing.
and I don't know if, yeah, if people will feel as though this is coming across as me being nitpicky or, overly critical, but these are the things that I was thinking while watching this. Was just like, so much of this is implausible within what, like, everything needs its own internal logic. A story needs its own internal logic. A fictional world needs its own internal logic. And part of that internal logic has to relate to the real world. Like, it has to relate to the human experiences that we have in real life so that you can sympathize and empathize with what's going on screen. And that's not what was happening. Instead, I felt like I said, it was this like theme park idea instead, where it's like, all right, we're not going to bother with the character development and like the idiosyncrasies of the characters and their like problems, their fears, the things that they uh, are like positive traits, things that are negative traits, their temperament. Like, that bleh, like, that's boring. Nobody cares. Let's just throw that in the garbage can. And instead, it's like nonstop quips, and like every scene is like a skit kind of. Uh, every character is catty. That was the best way I could, because I was trying to think, like, what is the best way to describe how these characters act? And I think it's catty. They're like constantly trying to be snarky or sardonic or like get one up on each other, and none of it is genuine seeming at all. It's like all very, yeah.
It
Uh
sounds Reddity to me.
I guess that's what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what Reddit means, but I know what catty means, and that's what it seemed like. That everybody was just like a little bit too sassy. Like the robot is
Yeah, yeah.
sassy, and then like Tila has like sassy lines. Like everyone is just blasting this snarky, sassy cattiness full blast all the time.
Yeah, that stuff is hot sauce. It's hot sauce. And everything you eat cannot be drenched in hot sauce. That's really what it comes down to. Every character can't be drenched in hot sauce. Uh, it makes me okay, here's the real question that you have to go deep inside the Kevleeb. You have to dig deep on this and be very honest about your answer. Do you think that somebody who is not you or me would love that, would love the constant stream of catty, sarcastic, making fun of itself stuff?
Yes, 100%. Yes. I think that I think more people like that uh, than don't like, than are annoyed by it. Let me say it that way. I think more people like it than are annoyed by it. I think that annoyed by it is probably a pretty small minority.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, but let me also say this, is that I think a lot of these movies are bombing for a reason. And maybe this is like the next evolution of this topic where is like the season of the Marvel snarky cattiness theme park thing setting, and are people now like longing for more serious, authentic, organic, like believable storytelling? I don't know. But a lot of these movies that are made this way are not really doing well. So it seems like something has changed with audience interest.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you can get away at this point with everything being in service of what's 5 seconds ahead of it, and that's it. It's like the goldfish memory trope, where nothing else matters other than the next line. That's fine with improv. Like that, like whose line is it anyway is literally that, right? um but if you enjoy a bit more, uh then I think you're in trouble, and what's the objection that I have is that I think that you can satisfy both audiences completely at the same time. This movie could have been one that fully entertained and made you happy, and fully entertained, a snarky, catty 19-year-old Redditor. It could have worked. Guardians of the Galaxy did a really good job with this. Uh, there's a lot of quippy stuff and goofy stuff in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
However, every character matters, and you know enough about every character to have expectations about what they do and why they even make the dumb quips they make.
They make quips that are the types of quips that character would make. They're not. It's
Yeah,
not interchangeable dialogue.
and that's something from what you were describing. It sounds like, they almost assign laugh lines to people in the script as opposed to those people being like that.
Yeah.
When you hang around with a group of friends, this is what we used to do in the 1900s, is hang around with friends in person in real life. Um, there's like the one guy who's funny who does this. Like, not all five of you at the lunch table are like constantly doing catty quips. There's the sarcastic, snarky guy, and there's one of them, and there's the goofy guy, and there's one of them, and there's the one who always goes over the top, takes it too far, takes it into an area that is like gently forbidden. But there's one of them. The whole group is not doing any one of these. That's not what anybody is like. That's not real life at all. And so when you're assigning quips and laugh lines and gotchas and all of that stuff across a cast, what a strange anti-human thing that is.
Yeah, it comes across really weird. I don't love it. I like when characters are clearly defined and the humor comes from their idiosyncrasies. That's what I like. Charles Kahn retweeted our live stream
Hmm.
with something that I totally agree with, actually. Like, I love this idea. So, Charles Kahn says uh, that the movie treated He-Man as a joke and should have played it straight, which would have been way funnier. I
That's a good way
completely
to put
agree
it.
with that. Totally agree with that. You
Yeah.
could still have it be a comedy without like being this self-aware, undercutting, like, haha, like jabbing you in the ribs. Isn't this stupid? Like, if you just played it straight, it would have made for a much more entertaining movie, and it probably would have the jokes would have landed harder if they were,
Yeah.
yeah, within the context of like a serious, more seriously defined film.
There's no question to go back to domestic violence as a humor device, which I solved the problem as we were talking, by the way, on How You 2026 The Honeymooners. You just you acknowledge this to the moon thing because Ralph Cramden after work, he was like a bus driver or something in the series. You know, he's watching TV and there's just like something about SpaceX and you know, they say something, you know, the Chiron on the screen says like to the moon and he's just like, oh, like sees Alice being annoying, doing something obnoxious, and he has a little thought about sending Alice to the moon. And in that way, you acknowledge 2026 versus you know the original. You don't necessarily have to punch her straight to the moon anymore. Times have changed.
Yeah.
Um, but what you're describing is very, very frustrating. That people don't think real life is funny. One of the like top 10 funniest things I ever read, and I remember sending it to you. This was in John Updike's Rabbit Run, or no, one of the Rabbit books. I can't remember which one. It's that classic like husband and wife kind of hate each other but don't. At times they really do hate each other, but most of the time it's that sort of loving dissatisfaction, you know? And there's a scene where Rabbit's in a house and sees like this Pier 1 import style piece of decor, like this statue on a mantle that he doesn't like and annoys him. And he has this like phrase, it's not even a full sentence, where he just imagines like picking it up and bashing Janice's head in with it. And it's so funny in the context of what that is, because he's not actually thinking about killing his wife. He's not going to. That's a spoiler. He doesn't kill his wife in the books. Uh, but it's that thought where like he sees this big, heavy, baseball-sized rock kind of thing. And it's like that would be perfect to just crush Janice's skull. And it's so much funnier than if there were an actual joke in there. That stuff is the funniest. Real life is funnier than the stupid jokes you make within the context of real life.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, that was something that was taught to me when I actually was at film school, and I was interested in writing comedy, and my professor was like, "You can write things that are funny in a dramatic script. Like it
Mhm.
needs to be, organically within the context of like a real drama with high stakes. There could still be funny. So an example would be like Fargo. Like Fargo
Yeah.
is a very serious movie. There's murder, there's like fraud, there's,
Oh, it's awful.
embezzlement, and there's like very high stakes, very serious. And it's also hysterical. Uh, but it comes out of like the organic scenes. It's not shoehorned in there to keep you entertained. I need to, because I have been worried this entire time of people uh, being annoyed at me for being critical of something, even though I like it. Okay. So there's another retweet, probably from somebody who's following Charles Kahn, that saw just the headline that I put out that says, so I wrote, Kevin loves He-Man, but the movie was embarrassed of itself, question mark. That's what I wrote.
Yep.
Which I don't actually think is a question. I genuinely do think that it was. They made fun of the name He-Man in the movie. Like it was part of the humor of the film was just essentially lampooning itself. So this person says, apparently Kevin doesn't love He-Man, LMAO. The show was made to sell toys, bro. I don't know what else you expected. We're in fact lucky the movie turned out as good as it did because it very well couldn't have. Okay.
Where is this? I
It's
want to see
on
this.
it's on Twitter. It's on Twitter
This is a retweet
of the TCU tweet. Yeah.
of the tweet. Okay, because I see the meme bastards, Charles Kahn, um, beyond belief. Okay, I don't know who this is. Now I see this. No one has liked it. No one has liked it. Lucky with a capital L. Yeah, I mean, of course it could have been worse. You talked about the film in 1987 that
Was
literally
worse.
was worse
Yeah,
of this,
way
like,
way worse, in fact. It was tremendously worse.
but the show was made to sell toys. Is that the driver of this release in 2026?
Well, but this person is basically doing the exact thing I'm complaining about, which is to say, this thing is stupid and sucks to begin with. Why do you have high
Why
expectations for
bother?
it? Right?
Yeah.
It's like you
Yeah.
are doing the exact thing that annoyed me in the film, which is basically this is just to sell toys. What do you expect it to make a good movie? And my answer to that is yes. Why not? Like, what are you talking about? Why couldn't the movie be good? Just because it was intended to sell toys, you can't make a good movie out of it? Like, Clue is a great movie.
Is it?
That
I've never actually watched it because
really,
it looked stupid to me,
I love
but I know
Clue.
that people love it. Yeah.
I love Clue. I don't know if seeing it in 2026 for the first time, makes it a great movie. I grew up watching that movie so many times. Yeah, okay, it's based on a literal product. It's based on a board
Yeah.
game, okay? It's based on a board game, and they made a movie, and the movie has a killer, like,
Isn't Tim
all-star,
Curry in it?
all-time lineup cast. Tim Curry, Martin Mull,
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, Madeline Kahn, Leslie Ann Warren, Michael McKean. Dude,
Yeah.
killer cast.
It's pretty
It's
good.
tight. There isn't nothing drags. The thing from start to finish is like hilarious and clever and interesting and fun. Talk about a fun movie. Clue is a ton of fun. It's based on a freaking board game. Who cares what the thing is based off of? Why does
Yeah.
that lower your expectations to say, ho hum, this thing stinks anyway, so what do you expect? I don't know. Make it awesome. It could be awesome. And it
There are
doesn't
a
stink
lot
to
of
begin with. It was cool. That's
think
why I
how
liked it.
many think how many incredible movies have come from unserious children's books. Low-level children's books. not not deep understanding classics. Been a lot of, like, mildly close to throwaway children's books that have generated just awesome films. Like, they could have been as simple as those original stories, and I guess it would have been okay. Okay, but they did something better with it. They did something different. That is such an odd mentality. Is that it has earned its role of never being taken seriously, and
Right.
it's actually a an unnatural thing to think for a second that you would take it seriously. How do you get to think that way? And I feel a little bad, because I'm talking specifically about somebody I don't know and I'm not familiar with and their take on it. But at the same time, they shouldn't have been so dumb. Um, they shouldn't have been so immature with thinking that this has to be immature.
Well, and the other thing is like the movie is bombing, okay? Are they ever going to make another one after this? I don't know. Maybe, but it seems like if I were to bet on it, I would say no because they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars on this one. It would have been way better if it was a better movie and it made $1 billion and we could look forward to the next one and everyone really, really loved it instead of it being this mixed experience.
How do you follow it up, though? How do you make another one when you have panned it and made fun of it into the ground as your concept? What
Oh,
can you do
what?
after that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
This feels like a last hurrah. And do you remember in the 80s, mostly, so into the 90s to some degree, there would be these last hurrah, like, made for TV movies that were a continuation of a long canceled TV show.
Mhm.
where it's like, let's do one more of these before everybody's dead,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And they kind of self-parodied a little bit and whatever. And it was okay because it was so clearly the last final thing that would ever be. And you didn't have any responsibility of thinking, if we do this, what will come after it? Nothing will come after it because it can't. It can't. Well, it certainly could with Masters of the Universe. It doesn't have to end with this movie, but it feels like they painted themselves into a corner where how could you possibly follow it up with anything that isn't a total fresh reboot that's done completely differently? And at that point, how many iterations of the movie have you done? You can't follow this up. You can't follow Goofy. We don't take it seriously because it deserves not to be taken seriously. That's just a stake through the heart of this IP. And that's really unfortunate because it's cool.
It is cool, and the parts of the movie where they treat it as cool are great.
Yeah.
They're really cool. You know, watching them fight and watching Ram Man like launch himself into the air and like slam down into the ground in this like AoE attack, and you know, people exploding left and right. Like, it's really cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I just wish that the whole thing was like that. And like I said before, to back Charles Kahn's quote, it would have been funnier if they were going for humor. Man, the humor would have come out more naturally that way. And I think more because let me tell you, people were not laughing in the theater.
Really?
It's not like I was sitting there stone faced and like a grump, like, oh geez, with my like wet diaper. I'm like, this isn't what I wanted from my toy commercial movie. Like, it's not like it was it wasn't that at all. Like, nobody was laughing. The movie is like all jokes. And I remember maybe one time like one guy laughed at one of the like 78 jokes.
So it wasn't that funny. It just satisfied kind of. This is why I thought of the Reddit type thing, because it's a very look at this and scroll to the next thing mentality. What
Mm.
you described, where it sounded like the movie was just like a doom scroll of snarky stuff.
Yeah, it maybe elicits like some sort of internal chuckle.
Yeah, for a
Uh,
second.
for a
And then
second.
there's something else that you chuckle at, internally right after. And then after 90 minutes of doing this, you walk out. But once you've done that and you do it at the story's expense, at the IP's expense, how could you ever convince anybody to take it seriously after that? When the whole thing has been, this is stupid, we should laugh at it. There are a lot of stupid things worth laughing at. Like that's not the worst idea in the world. But you can't possibly take a thing more seriously after the fact. After that. Once you do that, there's no coming back at all. And I might be wrong. If there's an example of that having happened, I would love for somebody to point it out. I, I'm sure it's happened once or twice, but generally, when the game is let's make fun of this for being so stupid and cheap and fake, oh, the time it would take for that to dissipate, it would take many decades, many decades. So I haven't seen this film, but from what you described, I don't see how anything could come after it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know unless it really was made by different filmmakers and they had a whole fresh take on it. And like at that point, you like you said, it's almost just like a new reboot. I mean,
Yeah.
we had there. I'll give you an example of something that started pretty serious and then got dumb. And I actually like the dumb movie better. I think is Conan the Barbarian.
Oh, yeah.
The original Conan the Barbarian is not a silly movie. Like, it is dark,
It is not.
it is intense, it is weird. It's very of its times, very 70s, and the pacing of it and everything.
Mhm.
The follow-up is so 80s. Like, I don't think there's, like, a better example of, like, here's what a 70s movie is, and then here's what an 80s movie is between Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. Like, those 2 films are total products of their time. I happen to like watching Conan the Destroyer more because it's dumbed down, it isn't so serious, it doesn't have these, like, long, drawn out artistic moments. It's like Wilt Chamberlain and, like, Grace Jones, and they're, like, fighting Andre the Giant dressed as a lizard. I'm like, "I'm in for this. This is great."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You
people hate
know,
that movie, so I'm not on the in the majority, I don't think, when it comes to that movie.
I've I've wondered Tracy Walter is the guy who's like the cagey little hobo in that group. I think he has like a stick. Maybe he's the thief or something. You know the guy I mean.
Yes, yes.
And he talks like this. He talks like emphysema, and like he's one stage away from putting up one of the things to his throat to be able to speak. And he was really young. He was like 30 when he 35 when he did that film.
Yeah.
And I've always thought it kind of funny that he had to maintain that, through the whole film. But I mean, there's a reason why I remember all of that now, almost 40 years after seeing it. And with the original Conan, the thing I like the best about that movie is the soundtrack. Uh, it is a banger. It is a straight up banger of a soundtrack. It's incredible.
Yeah, I wanna point out Macadandi in the comments mentioned First Blood fits into this category, and that
Yeah.
is totally true. First Blood, the
Hmm.
original, is a very serious movie, and then the second one goes full 80s and is just machine gunning people the entire time. Very, very silly. Um,
Yep.
but that's the opposite for me. I much prefer First Blood. I think First Blood, and I've said this before, is one of the greatest screenplays ever written.
That's
That
fair.
is a great film, and I like First Blood Part 2, but I'd much rather watch the first one, given the choice.
I I like them all. I like them all, and
You like
honestly,
3? Rambo
I
3?
like all of them,
Ugh,
and I like the newest ones as well.
so do I.
I like those a
I don't like
lot.
Rambo 3.
Well, it's like that with the Rocky movies too. Where Rocky One is an incredibly serious story. There are
Yes.
funny parts because Rocky Balboa is a funny guy. He's a goofy guy, but it's not a comedic movie really at all. It's
No.
quite serious. And by the time you get to 3, and then 4, you know, and people don't even admit 5 exists at this point.
They shouldn't.
No, but like that's the same sort of transition where it's like a beat 'em up movie. Rocky 4 is an awesome beat 'em up movie, uh, but it's not like Rocky 1, which is a serious story about a man's ambition. It's a love story. It's serious business, right? But I forgot to mention something to you earlier. I watched an old movie the other night. A
What?
legitimate, like somebody who watches movies movie. I couldn't
Okay.
believe it.
What
I
was it?
watched Drunken Master, Jackie Chan's Drunken Master,
Okay,
which is the film
yes.
that put him on the map. Um, and I spent a lot of time reading about the genre because it is so stupid
It
and
put him
dumb.
on the map in China. Let's be clear about
Yeah,
that.
it,
Not in
it made his
America.
career real, which he
Yes.
then continued to build on.
But he was a while before he was an American. That was like
Yeah,
90s Rumble in the Bronx.
right. Right.
was his
And
like
Drunken
American
Master
breakout.
was like 77. He was very young, like early 20s when he did that. But it's heavily slapstick. His character, his reactions, like it's all comical in a way that like Looney Tunes is.
Yeah.
Every element of it is, you know, 90% of it is the fighting, the amazingly scripted fighting. But as a movie, it even quits on on like the premise that's been served on a tee, which is his father is unhappy with him, and then he gets, you know, redemption. Well, when he gets the redemption, the movie ends without them saying a word, like credits roll. Immediately after the moment where he gets the redemption, it shows him and his father like walking toward each other, and it's the end of the movie.
A lot of old movies are like this, by the way.
It's just
Like
over.
like like having a resolution in a film almost wasn't a thing until like the 80s in a lot of
Yeah.
cases,
Yeah.
or maybe
And
70s.
it's okay because you know precisely what that resolution is going to be. You don't need a 3-minute dialogue where he's like, son, you know, well done.
Yeah,
You know,
right,
you
right.
don't need that. You know all of that. Uh, but I thought this is so remarkable that there's so little of value in this film. There's nothing of value in this film other than funny stuff and fighting. And that's okay. It's completely okay. It's a great movie. It's a good time to watch it. And it checks like virtually no boxes of what would make a film interesting.
That's true.
It's like if there's like a 90-minute fart joke that was funny. It's like, well, hey, if it's a good enough fart joke,
His
I guess
his
it'll work.
his athleticism is so incredible,
What's remarkable?
and the choreography of that's the movie.
Yeah.
That's all it is you're
And
watching, it's like a Cirque du Soleil show.
yeah. And that's enough.
Sure.
That's enough for it to be awesome. So it was a really cool uh it was a really cool kind of realization because you know we are thinking about books and movies too deeply at this point. You know, but it's the constant like you go to He-Man and like really think about what's happening. And I'm watching it and I'm trying to think about what's happening. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing there to roll with. You know, but I did read about this, you know, the comedy kung fu genre, and that was really interesting. And I thought you'd make a lot of movies, and they certainly did, lots and lots that were just funny jokes, funny situations, and fighting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the cream of the crop. I had a pretty serious kung fu phase at one point in my life.
Oh, okay.
Watched a lot of Shaw Brothers films, and the narrative and the film, the story part, it's paper thin. You're there to see the choreography, you're there to see the athleticism, and that's really it's not far off of like porn. There's just, instead of watching people have sex, it's watching them
Yeah,
do choreographed fighting.
that seems perfect. That is a perfect analogy. Where if you analyzed a porn film in anything other than like, do I enjoy what I'm seeing? You're getting nothing. I never watched any kung fu. I was forced into a kung fu phase because in 2001 to 2002, my roommate in Boston, Alan, uh, was really into martial arts and kung fu. He was actually not arrested the year prior, but cited by the university police, which is a real thing. It's not on most colleges, but at Boston University, uh, the security officers are actually deputized by the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. So when you got busted by campus police, you were actually dealing with police. It was a serious thing. Well, they wrote him up in the school paper, not with his name, uh, but they called him the Boston University Ninja Turtle because they busted him for having nunchucks. He legitimately trained martial arts stuff and kung fu style, whatever. He would go on the weekends to his trainer outside the city, whatever. So all the things that he had in his dorm room were legitimately used by him. We ended up rooming together the year after, but you can imagine that there was no cable there, and so it was just what you had on DVD or what LimeWire gave you, and he had a lot of kung fu DVDs. So with like the 13-inch TV in the dorm, there were a lot
Hmm.
of these movies on, and so I
Yeah.
I got to see quite a few of them.
Yeah. So you get to watch the five Venoms, stuff like that. There are a
Yeah.
lot of really cool. So those 70s ones can you have to be in the mood for that.
Hmm.
There were ones that came out more in like the early 90s that are they are legitimately awesome. Uh, I don't know. Twin Dragons is one that comes to mind. I know that was Twin Dragons was. I would have to go back through. I have booklets of DVDs that I haven't opened in probably 20 years. So I'd have to go through that just to see like what these movies even were because I don't even remember what they were.
Well, I watched Drunken Master because something I can't remember the movie because I obviously didn't didn't end up watching it. But I googled where to watch it, and it was on Tubi, which is Tubi. This is free. It's essentially a free.
That's where I watched Krull.
That's where okay. I believe that Krull is on Tubi. Well, I install the app on my TV. Like I'll give Tubi a shot. It is loaded with kung fu movies. It is just dripping with them, and that's what popped up as a featured thing. And I'm like, I know of the existence of this film. I have for 30 years. I've never watched it. I had the computer out, playing a little Risk online, and I thought I can handle a Risk game and a Jackie Chan movie at the same time. But when that was done, it's like, well, now consider watching this, and it was like 10 pages of kung fu titles that ranged from Jackie Chan and Jet Li to slop, absolute garbage. It's like, oh, if you want to watch kung fu, Tubi is the place to be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a phase I recommend. I think everyone at some point should go through a nice little kung fu phase. Um, Here's the last thing on the He-Man thing to wrap it up. Well, first of all, if they were to make a sequel, would I go and watch that? 100% yes. Absolutely. I'd go see it in the theater. Definitely. Because like I said earlier, seeing Skeletor and He-Man and stuff on the big screen worth the price of admission for me. It was it was just fun and it was cool.
Can you tell me how much it was? What was the literal price of admission?
I think it was like
Do you remember?
13, 12, or $13, something like that.
All right, that's not insane, is it? Did you buy any food or anything?
Well, I was kind of shocked actually, like two tickets, a Coke and a small popcorn ended up being like almost $50.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so then when like a family in front of us walks in and there's like five, it's like a mom and dad and three kids, and they all have their own concessions. I was like, "Oh, you just spent $200.
Yeah,
That's crazy."
I've seen tweets like that where somebody's like, "Oh, I took my kids to see this thing, and it was like $40 a person because they got popcorn, candy, and a soda." Oh my god!
It's a lot of money. Um, the second thing though, overall is like who would I recommend watch this movie? And the
Yeah.
answer is I have no idea. I genuinely don't know because I think that He-Man fans are split on it. And I don't
Mm.
know if that split is 50-50. I don't know if that split is 80-20. I don't know what that split is, but there is a split because I have seen people who are diehard, like have Skeletor t-shirts and stuff, hated the movie. and other people who, actually really quite enjoyed it and have gone and seen it multiple times in the theater. They liked it
Really?
that much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So both of these people exist. And then the question of people who aren't He-Man fans, I don't know if there's anything. I have no frame of reference for what it would even be like to walk into that theater with no like preconceived feelings towards He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, plunking your butt down in that seat. What happens next? I don't know. I don't know what happens there. That's a mystery to me.
That's a strange phenomenon to not know who to recommend a movie to. Everything I think I've ever seen, eh, probably especially things that I didn't like, the first thing you think is like, oh, this person would like that. I hated it, but they'd like it. Uh, I don't know if I've ever been in a position where I watched or read something and then threw my hands up.
Yeah, I'm throwing my hands up because I feel like if I go to someone who loves He-Man, good chance they hate it,
Yeah.
good chance they love it. And then if it's someone who doesn't care about He-Man, I'm like, would you want to sit through 2.5 hours of this thing that's
Is
like confused in it of itself? Like the
is
tone,
that how long the runtime was? Do you remember?
it's long. Yeah, it's not 90 minutes, that's for sure.
I assumed it was really short.
No.
2 hours and 12 minutes. Given what you described, I assumed it would have to be short to have this fast moving cavalcade of quips and stuff that move the plot along, whatever. That sounds to me like an 80-minute film. How could you do it for an additional hour? Why would you do it for an additional hour?
I,
It's another hour of hot sauce.
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm befuddled. It has rendered me confused.
Did you see anything about? I'm trying to think who would, any channels or people who would have done a thing on this. Did you watch any reaction videos or?
I did. So I watched Red Letter Media's video on
Okay,
it,
yep.
and I watched Film Threats video on it, and it's all mixed. It is
Huh.
all mixed. Like the one guy from Film Threat was very middling on it. He was actually very similar to me. He was like, there were things I thought were great, there were things I thought were not so great. So I'm kind of in the middle on this movie. It's not a disaster and it's not amazing. It's somewhere in the middle. The other guy didn't like it at all, thought it stunk. Um, and then it seemed like the Red Letter Media guys were also sort of in the middle on it, and also um, kind of confused. It seemed like to me overall as to like what even is He-Man? What are we doing here? Who is this for? What kind of He-Man movie would a lot of people like? It is so silly. So, like, how much of the silliness do you inject? It's a strange. It's a strange IP. I think it's a hard thing to get right, and maybe that's why it hasn't gotten right. I don't know.
It does seem difficult. Um, it seems difficult, but at the same time, like I said earlier, it's like I don't know how to do this. That's why nobody is
But
is
like,
giving me bazillions to do
look,
it.
He-Man is very much like Spider-Man. He's got, or I guess like Superman, but like, okay, Spider-Man is Peter Parker, puts on a suit, then he's Spider-Man saving the day,
Mhm.
flying around the city in spandex. You could think that was stupid. He's fighting a lizard man. He's fighting a guy called Dr. Octopus, and he has octopus tentacles. Like, this is the same ballpark as He-Man in
Mhm.
so many ways. And the Spider-Man movies are they're, I don't want to say they're not serious. They are funny, but
There's a lot of good comedy
they're
in
not
this. Yeah.
making fun of Spider-Man in Spider-Man, and no one's making fun of Spider-Man outside of Spider-Man and being like, this is stupid and it's just to sell toys. It's like, okay, well, it was just to sell comic books, which are just paper toys, basically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have like
Paper toys. I don't know
it.
why that's so funny to me, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have this like gravitas, this like literature, history behind it. It's comic books, but people don't make fun of it. They're like, this is a fun
Yeah.
thing that we enjoy. And like Sam Raimi makes Spider-Man movies that are really good and they have heart and they do have funny moments, but they're like well-rounded. Like, why can't you do that for He-Man? And why am I being laughed at LMAO for even suggesting that it's possible when obviously it is?
That's the entire detachment of an ass, to laugh it right off. It's literally what happened when he
But
tweeted
this is
that.
a
Is it fell on
sentiment
the
because
floor.
this is the sentiment I think a lot of what I've seen, a lot of what red letter media has is very much like, this is stupid. He-Man is dumb. There's a guy who looks like a bumblebee. And my counter to that is, okay, there's a guy in like, what about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What's
Yeah.
dumber than that if you want to call something dumb?
It's
Is
yeah, on paper it's a really
teenage
stupid
turtles
thing.
who eat
Who
pizza
like
in a
pizza? Yeah.
sewer and they hang out with a rat. Like, it's idiotic, but you can make it cool.
Yeah. So I know, we're trying to wrap up, and this is the sort of thing that I should have like said 40 minutes ago. But as you were describing the film and your reaction to watching it, what you thought with what was on screen, I thought nobody seems to like Eternia. Like, this is not a thing that you enjoy watching, is the people in Eternia existing in Eternia. Despite having like crazy cool characters, you should really, really enjoy it. You should. But that seems to be the benchmark. Is like, do you actually like being in, the universe of the thing, whether it's a teen gets bitten by a spider and all of a sudden has powers, what does he do with them? That's not set in an alternate reality, but that's his universe. Do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like Middle Earth? Do you like the people and the characters and the animals and stuff in Middle Earth? Do you like Redwall? Do you think it's a cool universe to have a community of mice in a church in the backwoods of England? Is there something that you like about it? Everything you said seemed like it made it impossible to enjoy the actual premise of the film, which is like, here's Eternia and here's something happening in Eternia. If you don't like that at the most basic level, nothing's happening.
Look. I'm so glad that you said that because let's think about it in the context of what I said earlier in the film itself,
Yeah.
which is Skeletor takes over. He like destroys Eternia. Okay. He-Man is like the chosen one, essentially, the hero to come back to save Eternia. And all of the good guys don't even know who he is. So they don't even care about He-Man. Do they even care about Eternia? Like, that's what was driving me crazy watching this movie. It's like, okay, if the heroes of Eternia are disinterested, basically, seemingly, based upon their behavior in saving it and who the hero is and how they're going to defeat Skeletor, then what is the audience supposed to think?
The characters themselves do not seem to like being in Eternia.
The characters themselves don't care about Prince Adam or He-Man or any of it. Yes.
No. And you can have I'm glad that the Lord of the Rings didn't do this, because it could have. But like, none of the hobbits were doing their absolute damnedest to get out of the Shire and to leave that life. Some wanted to see stuff more than others. Bilbo wanted to travel, all of that. but they didn't have contempt for the Shire. They didn't hate the backwards, bumpkin everything. No, maybe they wanted more, but they didn't hate it. They liked parts of it, and it was constantly shown that they liked parts of it, even if it's just, you know what? Sometimes we go drink a lot of beer and dance. Like we have a good time. We smoke pipe weed. Like there are elements of the Shire that we enjoy. Everybody in everything either enjoys where they are, or it's a mission personally to turn their back on it and get out. That's those are the two camps. And what you described is in a purgatory between them where they don't care, they don't know enough about the place to even know the greatest, most mythical, legendary thing about it, the one factoid. They don't like their names, they think it's stupid, they think everything is dumb being in Eternia. Yet paradoxically, they don't care enough to say, let's get the hell out of Eternia. Maybe that's what you have to do next, is escape from Eternia. That's the only place you could take this franchise. But if none of the people like it, this is the doom scroll. You sit there and think the world sucks, all these problems, and you do absolutely nothing to change that or change your own, useless life. That's a horrible way to present anything. Nobody likes this ever, and nobody wakes up the next day saying, I'm so happy that I doom scrolled for 3 hours last night. Like I feel amazing today. No, and it's the same with this. If the people in a thing are just kind of annoyed by their own existence, in addition to the embarrassment of their own existence, this is awful. You gotta love it or hate it.
Yeah, I mean, they even Man at Arms. Basically, the whole movie is just a
That's Idris Elba, right? He was
Yes,
Duncan.
yes,
Yeah,
he's a despondent drunk. Basically, the whole movie. So he doesn't care about literally anything. He is as despairing and depressed as you possibly can be. That's his character because he likes, failed at the beginning to protect everyone, and Skeletor took over. So now for the rest of his life, he's just crawled inside a bottle and doesn't want to come out.
I like
And
that arc. That's a legitimate arc.
if it was treated as an arc and not as just like, well, we need some sort of conflict between Tila and her dad, and I guess this will be what they argue about. That's all. That's actually all it is. It's a contrivance. It's all contrivance.
Why would they do anything? How is it believable that they would take any action whatsoever, ultimately becoming, fighting in war to defend a place and an existence that they do not like?
Well, I mean, they don't actively say that they don't like it, but they do seem disinterested in like who He-Man is. But even He-Man's character himself is changed in the film, in which he's kind of a sensitive, like not a headstrong, tough, strong warrior guy. And then even though he's like massively jacked and everything, he's still supposed to be like this kind of I don't know, sensitive. It's a sensitive Prince Adam. And but then he gets the power sword and he like transforms into He-Man, and he's like super strong and he's like beating the crap out of everybody like instantly. And there's no reflection or contrast or anything between Adam like sitting down and be like, like this is completely out of character for me to be like punching guys into pits, into, lava, because I'm a really actually a sensitive guy and I don't like violence. And I don't know. It's not like
It
they
doesn't add up.
explore anything at any point about any of it. It's just stuff happens.
For 2 hours and 12 minutes. Yeah, whoever wrote this should never work again.
You know what I complained about the Wolf of Wall Street, how they undercut the
Yeah,
scams. They'll be like, "Okay, we did this great scam and made millions of dollars, but it's boring, so we're not going to talk to you about that." They do that like a couple of times in that movie. They pull that. I guess I would consider that like a rug pull. They do this rug pull a couple of times in the He-Man movie. One is that like Tila and Adam, you think are going to have this kiss, like they're finally going to get together. They have this kind of sexual tension, and Tila's like, "I've thought of you every day ever since you left. There hasn't been like a day that has gone by where I haven't thought of you." And Adam is like, "Me too. Like, I've thought about you ever since I left Eternia, and I'm so glad like I'm back together, or we're back together, and blah blah blah. You're beautiful, whatever it is." Okay, they have this like prolonged moment where they're sharing their feelings for one another. Okay,
which has to culminate in something.
and they're about to kiss, like they're getting closer and closer and closer. And then she goes, "Just as friends, though. Like, I just think of you as a friend, like a little brother, really," and like walks away. And I was like, is
Does
this
she do
supposed
this
is this supposed
because
to be
she doesn't?
funny? Like, am I supposed to laugh? Is that a punchline?
Does
I
she
don't-
just like ultimately not have the courage to tip it over the edge and do the kiss?
Who knows?
Because
That's the end of
that could
it.
be
No,
legitimate.
no. I don't know. Does it matter? I mean, it would if it was like
That's
a real story, but with real characters. But it's not.
that's the end. Like for the rest of the film, like this never comes up again.
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like you could run that script through like the free version of Chat GPT and say identify a serious problem with my plot, and it would come up with that.
Yeah, but it's
Like
not a
that.
plot. It's not a plot. It's
And so they
just
just stay friends,
yeah. So they're just friends, I guess, because
friendly,
she wants to be friends, even though this whole time she's like pouring her heart out to him,
and he's receptive,
and
openly,
he's
obviously
receptive to
receptive.
it. Obviously receptive. They're about to seal the deal with a kiss, and then just on a dime, she's like, "Just as friends, though. You're like my little brother."
What a confusing thing
It's just
to
weird.
give no context to and never follow it up.
It's just weird. It's just a weird moment. It's not funny, and you're
Why
just
would you
like,
do that?
okay, that was weird.
Why would you do that?
Because
Like
everything is like that. Everything is like ramping up towards a thing, and then it's like subvert expectations. Like pull the ripcord to get out of the thing you thought we were going to do and release the tension. That's the whole movie.
why would why would the writers, and there's a team of them too. I looked up to
Yeah,
see who is responsible for this, and it turns out like 4 people need to be put in prison instead of just one. But like this is a real question: is what could they have been thinking to do that and not follow it up? I can't understand that, and I'm really like almost obsessively curious about this
because
now.
it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Like it doesn't matter that they don't know who Prince Adam is. It doesn't matter that Tila like fakes being in love with him and then just leaves him with cold feet for no reason. Like none of it seems to really matter. Like there's another moment later with Skeletor where He-Man is trying to have this sort of uh, armchair psychologist moment where he's like, "Really, what's going on with you, Skeletor? Like, did you have a rough childhood? Like what's making you tick? Like, what are the like? Why do you do these evil things? Why are you doing these bad things? Like, can we come to some sort of like understanding here?" And Skeletor is like, "I have a skull for a face."
That's kind of funny. That's kind of
Well,
funny.
yeah, well, that my version is funny. That's not what actually happens, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, your
it's
version
basically
is
like
funny.
that.
It's
It's
like
basically like that, where
a
he's like,
skull for a face.
I'm just evil," and you're like, "Okay,
What puzzles me about this when I say I can't understand, I mean, that's like a throwaway line. I mean it literally, that I do not understand how the process with a movie script, the many rounds and layers and people that it goes through before anybody plugs in a camera. You're telling me that nobody in this whole process, or that this is what the exchange was. Somebody says, whatever happens with Adam and Tila, and the writers go, and everybody says okay, and that's that.
Yeah,
Like,
well, so there's a whole other topic here. Macadante is touching on it, and this is something that I've thought of with a lot of this stuff, a lot of this writing for a long time, which is like this allergy to it's like an allergy to meaning. Like they are so afraid of something being serious and meaningful that it always has to kind of be laughed off as like, "Oh, we're just kidding, guys." Uh, I don't know if it's fear of being cringe. Like, is it cringe to fall in love with Tila? Like, is it cringe for like He-Man and Tila to fall in love and kiss? Like, is that's a general question that I have. Like, do the writers think it's cringe? Does the audience think that it's cringe?
yeah,
I don't know, but it's obvious that like something is breaking down here where like genuine human feelings and seriousness is terrifying.
yeah. There's something happening here, and you know, I struggle with what to say on this because Macadandi used the term soilenial writing. That's exactly the sort of thing that, a term like soilenial that I always use when I'm talking about the stuff on Discord is like dismissing it to that degree. I do that constantly, and I want to take this phenomenon more seriously, and I don't quite know how. That's the problem I've got. Is the question is like, what leads you to the point where you think the right move is to reject, them having a romantic relationship, to reject the whole thing and say, no, I'll just put an awkward point in here and never speak of it again. What leads up to doing that in a book or a movie? And that's what I want to understand is how these people are led to it. As much as we trash recently, like werewolf, wizard king novel porn, I don't have any trouble understanding why someone would write it or want to read it. They're entertained by it, they are titillated by it, whatever. It's not a mystery. I get it. I completely get it. I sincerely do not understand how you think, you know what? These two characters dating is so stupid that I'm going to make fun of it.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things here that I'll just add to the confusion. One is that when we had David Zucker on,
Yeah.
he flat out said, who only has created the most successful comedies basically of all time. He flat out was like, the audience does not care about your movie unless there is a relationship, unless there's like some kind of love
Mm-hmm.
story, unless your hero falls in love with someone at some point, but they get together at the end, then nobody cares about how funny the rest of it was. They think that the movie was pointless, right? That's what he said. An Airplane has this really flimsy romance that the whole thing is built around, and Naked Gun has the same kind of flimsy romance that the whole thing is built around, but it ties the movie together for the audience, is to make you feel good by the end of it. Like, oh, like all this silly stuff happened, and Frank Drebin is an idiot and he caused so many problems and millions of dollars of damage to the city, but he fell in love and they're going to live happily ever after. And I'm satisfied now. I'm good. So you have that in our recent history being told that from David Zucker. Okay. And then to your point, the only thing basically that people want to read is romance. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the only thing that sells a freaking book in
Yeah.
2026 is relationship stuff, is romance stuff. I was at
Right.
Target the other
Oh.
day at looking at the books, and let me tell you, row after row after row of books at Target are romance novels. Whether
Yes.
or not they're labeled fantasy or they're labeled romance directly, they're still relationship stories. They're still romance stories. And then meanwhile, you have something like this being like, ooh, that's scary and cringe. And like, let's not go there. It's like, but this is all anybody wants.
Everything is a love story. Literally everything is a love story to one degree or another. That is my personal thesis. Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, doesn't happen if Frodo doesn't love the Shire in the way of life in the Shire. That's the only thing driving him. He doesn't have a family. To him, Bilbo's, which is all he had, is gone. He is driven by the mysterious force of the ring, but that's not what makes him. That's what he fights against. He's on his path to destroy it. But in the end, he loves the Shire. In First Blood, John Rambo loves his dignity. That's the whole point, is John Rambo's dignity in the assault on it and how he snaps from it. But he has a love story, a romance story with his dignity in that.
Mm-hmm.
In Over the Top, the arm wrestling movie, the guy loves his son. And he loves his own life too. He loves his work as a truck driver. That's a driver too. There's a lot of romance that's happening, despite there are no women. There are no women in Over the Top, other than the like estranged mother who's like dying of a disease for 5 minutes. But John Rambo doesn't meet some girl who inspires him along the way. He doesn't find love. No, this is just him loving his son. Every story you can think of is about loving something. John Wick loved his dog. Like it, even the ones that are like hard revenge stories, some kind of romance kicks that off. Obviously, he wasn't that type of love with his dog, but it's all love. What does Meryl love in Sleep Warrior? What does Meryl love?
Um, his room.
That's a legitimate thing to love. Is your house, your immediate surroundings, your life. And if you don't love that, you don't have a book. There's no Meryl. You read a chapter that I wrote that opens with an auction scene. It should be clear that the person in that book loves the past. They have tremendous respect for all sorts of old shit. They love the people who intermingle with the physical items in the world, whether they're buying them, selling them, uh, many times finding no value in them and ignoring them, which is how they get to sale for the first place. But he loves all of these people and is very interested in that system. Everything you said about He-Man, no one gives a shit about anything, let alone enough to love it. Everything is a love story. Every video you've ever made on Vsauce 2 is a love story with that topic. You care enough about that topic to give it 10, 15, 20, 55 minutes of your best work.
Well, I think that's the problem with the general nihilism of a lot of media today is that, you know, if it's embarrassing to love something because you're like opening yourself up to either like harm or criticism about that, then yeah, you just ignore it completely. But it's hollow. There's nothing without that, really. It's just, you know, the roller coaster ride theme park thing that Scorsese was talking about, I think.
I the word subversion that Macadandi is using in the chat and explaining this entire phenomenon very, very well. I I feel this way This is a problem with like university level study of history and politics. Okay, I'm not trying to make a bigger deal out of it than a shitty He-Man movie, but there's a really strong undercurrent of subversion in approaches to, like, American history is a good example. A lot of people are familiar with A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. I was in Howard Zinn's department. He'd ceased teaching classes at that point. He was emeritus, but when somebody is really significant, the department, they bleed out through it, right? It's influential in that. And so it attracted, this was very much like everything about history is wrong. The people you thought were heroes were actually monsters. It was that sort of subversion. And there were a lot of people, and there are many more of them now. You go on Twitter and it's half of this, where the whole point seems to be subversion. And you wonder if the people opining on a thing have any affection or reverence to the thing that they're criticizing.
Oh, and I don't wonder that at all. Yeah, no, I think it's clearly no.
Yeah. Yeah. And there doesn't seem to be any love in this He-Man movie, in the sense that they didn't love the source material. They don't love Eternia. They write characters who are indifferent to their own lives and surroundings in Eternia. Everything is the subversion that Macadandi points out. And it is boring. It is stupid and it's boring. It's an empty vessel. It's a shitty cardboard box that gets water damaged and doesn't hold anything.
Yeah.
It's that level of valueless. And can it be stopped? It's not looking good. If I had to guess, we're going to get a lot more of this before we get less of it.
Yeah, I don't know how it changes. One thing that I thought of, because I was thinking, like, are people more interested in seriousness? Like, are we over the age of flippancy? Because that's what it seems like we were stuck in. It's like this era of flippancy where, like, who cares? Nothing matters. Let's just make something that's entertaining slop and move on to the next entertaining slop. And I wanted to know what you thought about this. I know we're going long, but whatever.
I'm fine with it.
What are really popular? What are very, very serious, I think, and also really popular? Horror movies. Like,
they're doing well now, aren't they?
Do you think that horror movies are so successful because they take themselves seriously? Because you go in being, knowing that it's going to be scary and, gross, crazy, violent things are going to happen and you're going to be frightened. And, like, that's the whole, like, you're not going in there to be like, this is just a goof. You're going in there being like, I'm going to see the scariest thing ever. And this movie is, like, so frightening. You got to go see it. Like, that's what I'm wondering. And generally is, like, are horror movies popular, or more seemingly, maybe I'm wrong about this, more popular than ever because everything else is so unserious?
That's interesting.
It's
I
like
wish
a
I knew
bastion.
more about the genre. But yeah, that seems to be a good fit. That seems to be
whereas,
a good
like, comedy is as at least popular as it's ever been. There are no comedy movies that are just even made anymore. Like, forget about comedy. It's not a thing. They make,
when you mentioned nobody
5
laughing
of those a year. Yeah.
Watching that, I thought back to seeing Dumb and Dumber in a second run movie theater in Syracuse. It was $1. And it was an explosion. The only time I've like, do you ever watch, like, Def Comedy Jam on HBO?
Yeah.
And people are, like, falling all over each other, laughing,
like crying,
literally
laughing.
rolling in the aisles.
Yes.
It's pandemonium there. And watching Dumb and Dumber in that second run movie theater was the closest I've ever experienced to people behaving that way, where they
That's
weren't
amazing.
yeah, it was just like every 2 minutes there was uncontrollable laughing. And there
Uh,
hasn't been anything that's made me laugh to any degree in like 15 years. No new movie.
Well, that's so this is my, end of the 2 hour, 15-minute podcast theory that I'm just going to throw out randomly is that there seems to be like a clear moving away from unseriousness, which would be like, farcical comedy type entertainment, and then moving towards hyper seriousness in like very scary horror movies, which like what would be more like on face value serious than that? Uh, I don't think anything. You're like going there for that very purpose. Like I have heard that new scary movie, which
Yeah.
again, going back to David Zucker, there was a whole controversy about him taking over the franchise and the Wayans brothers being very, very understandably upset about that. Um, the Wayans brothers got it back. They got it back. They made a new scary movie, and it is supposed to be absolute toilet water,
Really.
garbage, like horribly bad, like irredeemably just terrible, is what I've heard.
Yeah, with funny and actual like love stories, you can get away with such low quality stuff and still have it be worth your time. Like this is why Lifetime movies exist, because they're like for years they got a lot better. But in the early days, the love and sort of like murder porn styles, they had the two style of movie, and they were both schlocky and bad, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I say Dumb and Dumber. Now that's amazing, but like you can have scenes of a man getting horrible diarrhea at an inopportune moment and have it be funny. Like that's okay. The bar does not have to be high is my point,
Mhm.
right? And so to do something like Scary Movie and just have it tank is really a failure. It's really a failure not to be funny at a basic level, not to have a romance story that works on a basic level. Like the bar is not high, and if you don't clear it, you stink.
Yeah. From what I understand, it is not a good film. And it's probably another instance of Zucker just in his house smoking a cigar, just laughing at, told you so sort of thing.
It's so good that now I know what you mean. I literally, he was incredible hanging out with us for a while after we recorded and talking.
Oh yeah, a while, yeah.
Everything from real topics, real topics that Kevin likes to discuss, to Davy Crockett, which I like to discuss. Um, but he hung around, and now I can like match the actual persona with the reaction there, and yeah, I can just see him like shaking his head in dismissive. I told you so. This is exactly what I told you would happen. You blew it, and it stinks.
You blew it and it stinks. And I bet you it doesn't follow any of his 15 rules about
None.
making
They
spoof food.
subverted them. That's why they had to
Oh,
subvert the rules.
oh. Was another thing I thought of that people were complaining about subverting romance happened in the new Star Wars movies. So I didn't watch all of those, so I don't
I did.
recall.
I've
Okay,
seen them all.
is that people were saying that I think Finn was supposed to end up with Ray, maybe, and then instead he like ended up with Rose or something like that. Does that
Yes.
track?
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I can see two versions of this. One, that it's super disappointing to not have the two people you expect to get together. Uh, that stinks. Uh, but I can also see like, well, this is what you expect. Let's throw them a little bit of a curveball. and it was okay. It was okay, but I think that can work both ways. Kind of as long as two right people end up together, that's okay. Even if it's not the ones you expect, as long as it's plausible. It's that is this realistic
Mhm.
sort of thing. And I think that was realistic enough, but I can see being annoyed by it because honestly, with those sorts of movies, you want the things you're cheering for to happen.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. And that's not what happened romantically in that series.
Yeah. It's why the Hallmark movies were successful is because they're predictable and people are comforted by the predictability of them. And you thinking that you're going to out clever people, they don't want that. I don't want to be out clever. I don't want to see how clever you are. Just give me the hamburger that I ordered.
Yeah, Macadon says they introduced Finn and Poe in the first movie as cool characters, which they both were, and then abandoned them for the most part through the rest. And that was really disappointing, and that sucked. And I think it was that subversion element where it's like, we're going to give you like decoy cool characters, and then instead show you the ones that we really think you should care about. And this is very much, to go back to it, this is that people's history Zen style subversion where it's like all these people who you've grown up thinking are the cool ones in history. No, you're actually wrong about that. Here's a story of like an inconsequential 14-year-old sponge maker in Charleston who like took a stray bullet, and that's actually like the story you should know. And there are two types of people. They're the ones who think that's the way it should be, and that committing to the underrepresentation is a moral act. And then the ones who are like, I actually want to hear about like George Washington because he that was pretty wild, and it breaks that way with the books people like and the books people read on the historical subjects. You can tell from the titles. You get a guy like Ron Chernow, who's a biographer, who has his biographies are fantastic. He did an Alexander Hamilton one. It's one of the best biographies ever written. He's done a U.S. Grant one. These are great, but these are not fringe figures. It's the guy you'd expect. It's the hero you'd expect. And then you'll look on the shelf and it's like the untold, forgotten Sudoku puzzle story of this complete useless piece of shit. And it's like, oh, I'm actually the good person because I committed to the inconsequential one. Oddly, the right place to be is in the middle, where you know both and you recognize the actions of both. And in the inconsequential people, you recognize their life and their dignity. This is great. That's okay. You don't think they're equivalent to George Washington. You can believe both things, is what I'm saying. But nobody seems to want to. And it's either commit to the thing that we would like in the movies and that everybody has liked for a long time and what we value, or I'm just going to completely subvert it and make something that nobody likes. And if you don't like that, you're actually the problem.
Right. Yeah. What did you expect? It's based on, it's a toy commercial. What did you expect?
You went to go see a He-Man movie. Like, that's on you, bro.
That's on you, bro. You're the idiot. There I am. Once again, I'm the idiot. Oh, well. Yeah. Sorry.
Very sad, very upsetting.
That's the end of every podcast, is me just once again recognizing that I'm the idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a thing that there's more to this. There's more to this that we have to talk about in the future. Um, and it's becoming an overwhelming feeling of on my end with everything I like and think is good and find value in. um, being dismissed as unimportant or actively stomped on to make sure it will die. That's getting that's getting old. There's a little too much of it now. It's in too many things. It is in the history books I like. It is in the goofy movies I throw up on Tubi and just hope to enjoy for 2 hours. It's in the tweets. And what's crazy is how much I've worked to deliberately curate away from that. And I still get it constantly.
Yeah, there's another thing I really want to talk about in a future episode, which was this idea about how gimmicks are easier to write than authentic characters and story arcs and character development. This is something I brought up to you like a week or so ago. I don't remember it was. Maybe it had to do with like hard magic systems or something. I don't know. I have to try to remember what my point was with that. But I did have a point recently about how we are seeing a lot of gimmick writing replace good writing because the gimmick is so much easier. It's so much easier to write a gimmick than it is to write a good story with good characters. That is hard.
It
It,
is. And the value of a gimmick is immediate. Like when you think of it, when you're writing it, it's obvious to you what value this has. Whereas anything real, it's actually really hard to find value in on the surface. The value is generally not on the surface. And what you think it is usually turns out to be wrong. And oops, you've just backed yourself into a complex and fulfilling story. But it's like, is this a good tweet? Hit send. That's the extent of the gimmick thought.
yeah, yeah. All right, that's it for this week, everybody. Thank you to our patrons for supporting this podcast. Let me know what flavor of idiot I am this week in the comments below, and you'll have your opportunity again to do that next week when we are back here, same bat time, same bat channel, same